So let's do this again. I'm gonna do it next to this one. I'm just going to draw my box first, and it's not going to quite fit the same way, but okay. All right, so we're going to do this again. You guys are going to know how to draw this stork in your sleep by the end of today. Yeah, thumbnail sketches are always a good idea no matter what. Now I know the temptation is always there. You're like, I just want to paint or I just want to draw, and that's totally fine. I get that. But if you're trying to do something more serious or more finished, you know, it's always a good idea to do some thumbnail sketches or something. That's basically what we're doing here. We're doing some quick thumbnails. And thumbnails shouldn't take you more than 5 or 10 minutes. If you get into more than 10 minutes, you've moved from doing sketching into doing a drawing. Your intent's kind of changed. So we're just going to do the same thing. We're just going to kind of sketch them out pretty quick. Again, it can get kind of loose here. It doesn't have to be exact. Now, if you're doing stuff like this for thumbnails, if you're doing like little studies or something, you don't want to be quite as sloppy with your sketching. You want to be a little bit more with it, because sometimes you'll throw in some nice lines somewhere and it looks really cool, and then you go back and look at your reference and realize that doesn't exist on that whatever it is. You made it better somehow, but depending on how realistic you're trying to be, that might be a problem. All right, so we're just doing the same kind of thing. And what we're going to think about this time is how we can use that idea of light versus dark, but instead of just having just a high contrast idea where just the dark area butts up against just a plain white area, or vice versa, we want to try to think of ways that we can lose some edges and find some edges. Okay, and this goes back to utilizing that idea of line a little bit more too. The last one we were more concerned about big shapes. This one we're concerned about shapes and line more. So we're just going to do the same thing again. And like where we were talking about paying attention to those little light areas on his back side here, now would be a good time to remember those. So like there's this little white feather here, and then on this tail feather there's a little stripe of white, and we don't want to lose that this time. So let's start, once you get that roughed in there, let's start back here. And I probably didn't leave enough white there myself, but so we can start by losing a little bit of this edge here where that feather kind of tapers in there, and then we'll pick up a little bit here, because there's some important structure there. There's something we kind of want to call some detail to. And then maybe we start to lose it a little bit here. So whatever darker shape is here in the background kind of blends in with him a little bit. But we've got this light edge here, because this structure here kind of helps define the back edge of his body. This part, our eye will skip past this light area. We won't even notice that we can't really see what's happening here, and it'll pick up here again. So we've just kind of created a balance there of a lost and a found edge. So if this is some bushes or whatever back here, and then we'll just kind of do that same thing here. We'll just kind of frame that a little bit, and then we'll come down to this side, and this is where the sense of line kind of comes back into play. So we've got this through here, and this time we're going to lose this edge on his chest here. And then we're going to use that to find this white line, this white edge. And then that's going to trail out into our line. And then we'll pick this edge up again. So we've got these edges moving in and out of shadow. Some are framing, like our last one. Some of them are accentuating things. You know, like here we can do the same thing here. Maybe there's some grasses. So the idea is really we're just trying to find different ways that we can accentuate a subject and make our composition better by using line and shapes. The difference between the one we're doing now and the one we did last time is we're not just, you know, stuck with pure contrast. We can play around with that a little bit. Like even here on this lake, we might put a little shadowing here, and then that line starts to go away. And you don't always just have to do this with shading. You can come in and, like here, let's say on the bottom part of this bird here, I really don't need this line or this line to tell my story. Those two can kind of go away a little bit. So they could either be lighter, I could erase them out, because your eye will skip past those. So you can lose edges into white also. We can do the same thing here, like if there's a highlight on the top of his head, we can just let that kind of go. So if I erase those away, it still kind of completes my image, but I have a feeling of lightness or open.